In the quiet, forested mountains of Northern California lies a small community called Keddie. For decades, it was a peaceful resort town, a place to escape the noise of the city. But in 1981, that tranquility was shattered forever by a crime so brutal and baffling that it continues to haunt investigators and true crime enthusiasts. To this day, this is the story of the Keddie Cabin murders. Our story begins with Glenna Sue Sharp, a 36-year-old mother who had recently separated from her husband. Seeking a fresh start, she moved with her 5 children into Cabin 28 at the Keddie Resort. It was supposed to be a safe haven, a simple, rustic home nestled among the pines. Her children were 15-year-old John, 14-year-old Sheila, 12-year-old Tina, and the 2 youngest, 10-year-old Rick and 5-year-old Greg. The evening of April 11, 1981, started like any other. Sue was at home with her youngest boys and her daughter, Tina. Her oldest daughter, Sheila, had arranged to spend the night at a neighbor's cabin. Her son, John, was out with his 17-year-old friend, Dana Wingate. The 2 boys were last seen hitchhiking back towards Keddie from the nearby town of Quincy later that night. They made it back to Cabin 28, but what happened after they walked through the door remains a horrifying mystery. The next morning, on April 12th, around 7:30 a.m., 14-year-old Sheila returned home. She opened the door to a scene of unimaginable horror. In the living room, she found the bodies of her mother, her brother John, and his friend Dana. The 3 had been bound with electrical cords and medical tape. The scene was chaotic and bloody, indicating a prolonged and violent struggle. Autopsies would later reveal they had been beaten with a hammer and stabbed. John and Dana had also been strangled. The sheer brutality was staggering, but the horror didn't end there. Sheila quickly checked the other rooms. In their bedroom, she found her 2 youngest brothers, Rick and Greg, physically unharmed. They had somehow slept through the entire ordeal. But her 12-year-old sister, Tina, was gone. She had vanished from the cabin without a trace. The Plumas County Sheriff's Department was called to the scene, but from the very beginning, the investigation was plagued with problems. In the initial hours, the crime scene was not properly secured. Neighbors and friends wandered in and out, potentially contaminating crucial evidence. The initial police work was described by many as chaotic and unprofessional, a critical failure that would have lasting consequences. One deputy allegedly picked up a bloody knife found at the scene, handling potential evidence without proper procedure. The phone was found off the hook, the cord cut, suggesting the killers wanted to prevent anyone from calling for help. There were no clear signs of forced entry, leading police to believe the victims may have known. Their attackers, investigators, were left with a brutal triple homicide and a missing child. The small community of Keddie was paralyzed with fear. Who could have committed such a heinous act? Suspicion quickly fell on the people closest to the family. Sue's neighbor, Martin Smart, and his friend, John Bobu Bede, became primary suspects. Smart lived in the cabin next door with his wife, Marilyn. Marilyn later told investigators that Martin hated Sue Sharp and blamed her for interfering in their marriage, even more chillingly. Marilyn claimed that on the night of the murders, Martin and Bo had been out late, and she recalled Martin admitting to something terrible shortly after. But when officially questioned, Martin Smart denied any involvement. He even passed a polygraph test, though the reliability of those tests is often debated. Bobu Bede, a man with a rumored background in organized crime, also denied everything without concrete evidence linking them to the crime. The police couldn't make an arrest. The search for Tina Sharp went on for 3 long years. The family and the community held out hope that she might be found alive, but that hope was tragically extinguished on April 22, 1984. A bottle collector, hiking in a remote area near Feather Falls, about 50 miles from Keddie, stumbled upon a human skull and a jawbone. Dental records confirmed the remains belonged Two 12-year-old teen a Sharp near her remains. Investigators found a piece of a blanket and some duct tape. What was even stranger was that an anonymous call had been made to the sheriff's office just before the discovery, tipping them off to the location. The caller was never identified. Years turned into decades. The Keddie case grew cold. The files collected dust, and the surviving Sharp children grew up under the shadow of their families. Tragedy. It seemed like the killers would get away with murder. But then, new technology and a determined new sheriff brought a glimmer of hope. In the 2010s, Plumas County Sheriff Greg Hagwood reopened the case. He and his team began re-examining every piece of evidence with modern forensic techniques. They discovered a crucial clue that had been overlooked for decades. A claw hammer found in a local pond shortly after the murders. Martin Smart's wife had told investigators back in 1981 that a hammer of that exact type had gone missing from their home around the time of the killings. This was the potential murder weapon, sitting in an evidence locker all this time. DNA testing also provided new leads. A small piece of tape used to bind one of the victims was analyzed. It revealed the DNA profile of an unknown male. While it didn't immediately identify a suspect, it was a significant breakthrough. It was proof that physical evidence from the killer still existed. Over the years, there was even wild speculation that the infamous Golden State Killer, Joseph James D'Angelo, could have been involved, as he was Tina Sharp's biological father. However, DNA testing in 2018 conclusively ruled him out. Sheriff Hagwood's investigation pointed back to the original suspects, Martin Smart and Bo Bubid. Hagwood has stated publicly that he believes they were responsible. He also believes they did not act alone. The sheer chaos of the crime scene and the fact that 3 victims were subdued suggests there were likely multiple attackers. Another person of interest was a man who was allegedly seen with Smart and Bubid that night. One of the most compelling pieces of information came from a therapist who contacted investigators. He claimed that one of his patients had confessed to him years ago. The patient said that as a child, he had witnessed the murders. He was in the cabin that night and saw Martin Smart and another man kill Sue, John, and Dana. He said he also saw them take Tina out of the cabin. This eyewitness account, though difficult to verify many years later, seemed to corroborate the leading theory. So what is the prevailing theory today? Investigators believe Martin Smart, likely accompanied by Bo Bubid and possibly another accomplice, went to cabin 28 to confront Sue Sharp. An argument may have escalated into horrific violence. John and Dana, who happened to be there, were also attacked and killed to eliminate witnesses. But why was Tina taken? The motive for her abduction remains unclear. Was she a target from the beginning? Or was she taken simply because she witnessed the entire event? The decomposition of her remains made it impossible to determine if she had been sexually assaulted. Sadly, both Martin Smart and Bo Bubid are now deceased. They died without ever facing justice for the crimes investigators believe they committed. This means that no one will likely ever be formally charged or stand trial for the Keddie cabin murders. The case remains officially unsolved, a dark chapter in California's history. But for the surviving members of the Sharp family and for the investigators who have dedicated years to this case, the fight for answers isn't over. They continue to analyze evidence, hoping that one day a DNA match or a new piece of information will finally allow them to close the book on the horror that took place in Cabin 28. The cabins at the old Keddie resort were demolished in 2004, but the memory of what happened there lingers, a chilling reminder of a family destroyed and a crime that has gone unpunished for over 40 years. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into fascinating cases. Let us know your thoughts on the Keddie murders in the comments below.